fresh out the gym and I am going for a nice stroll through my neighborhood, going down to the marina. I come here every day, weather permits. It is my happy place. Just taking my daily walk, clearing my mind, clearing my thoughts, taking in the nature, and just been really thinking about like my journey the past couple of years and just wanting to share more, because I really feel like, right now we are in a place of uncertainty. It's a lot going on in the world, like all over the world right now, and I feel like a lot of people are going through it. A lot of people have hit rock bottom, and a lot of people just really need some guidance and some direction, some light in their life. And, just been thinking about where I started a few years ago. When you get to the place in your life when you just like really sick and tired of being sick and tired, like you want more in life, you're supposed to be doing more in life, look at the deer. I don't know if you can see it yet. You just want more in life. You just want more for yourself. You just know, you have a purpose on this earth. You were born for a reason. We're not supposed to wake up every day and go for a job. We're supposed to be out here creating and loving and, being one with nature, taking care of ourselves, but, and being happy. And I just feel like I'm in a place where, I can share that right now because, I've been doing the work the past couple of years. It has not been easy. Look at the deer. It has not been easy. But I was thankful to have like mentors and find mentors. It was just it was divine timing for me. I was just blessed to have people, guiding lights in my life. People who were dedicated to helping others. It's blurry. It's actually a beautiful place to be because that's what change is like, the unfamiliar, It's scary, it's hard, so much uncertainty, but it's honestly a beautiful place to be because that's really the beginning, That's really the beginning. That started for me back in 2019, I was going through it, just feel lost, depressed, it's just cracked open, And I just really started, that's when I started reading, I started reading a lot more. I started getting more in touch with myself, I started changing the way I eat. Really started pouring into myself, But I can say one of the biggest things that helped me kind of when I began is just to realize that, you had to get honest with yourself that you are unhappy. You have to start looking at yourself. You have to start going within, and being real about yourself, with yourself, because we all have issues, We all have problems. We all have trauma. And, that has shaped us. That has formed our entire personality, you know. Abandonment, A lot of that shows up in our relationships, A lot of that shows up in our friendships. Your life is a direct reflection of how you feel about yourself internally, The life you live, the things you accept, the relationships you accept, the friendships you accept, the way you eat, the way you treat your body, It's all a direct reflection of how you feeling inside. A lot of us are dealing with a lot, and don't know where to begin. We weren't given the tools to really deal with life. I feel like a lot of us are coming into, that type of knowledge and, acceptance and healing, within the past couple of years. But I can tell you it's a couple things that really helped me, you know, come to realization and acceptance within my journey. And I can tell you that's love, that's self-love, how you treat yourself, the relationships you accept, the things how you allow people to treat you. All of that's, reflection of love within itself. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about self-love, pouring into yourself. What boundaries do you have? Is it love are you always constantly giving and not pouring into yourself? Who pours into you? Do you even allow people to treat you the way? A lot of time when things are ending in our life, it's for a good reason. It's for, you can either look at it as a bad thing or a new beginning. That's how I like to look at things. One of the most important things is to really try to change your perspective on how you see things in life. I feel like you can always see, a positive in a situation. It's never really an ending, or is it a new beginning? You know, when relationships end, when situations end for our lives, there's always an opportunity for us to welcome in something new. But yeah, focusing on love, loving yourself more. And a part of loving yourself more is having love and compassion for other people. Now, that compassion, that's a very difficult thing for most people because it's taking yourself out of a situation that may have hurt you and seeing the other person as, you know, it's like really getting out of that victim mindset. Like, for example, I feel like one of the things I know personally a lot of people struggle with is like a lot of stuff that had to do with their parents, like a lot of relationships with their parents. And you have to really understand that your parents have their own story too. And a lot of us like to discredit our loved ones for not being able to, you know, treating us in a way that we, may not have wanted to as a child. Not being the ideal mother or father that we may have wanted, but you have to understand that your parents have their own story too, and they're human too. A lot of our parents came up during a rough time. What was their relationship like with their parents? How did they know how to be a mother or a father? What did their relationship look like with their parents? So that's where that compassion came in. You have to have that understanding that they have their own issues too, and they did the best raising you, with what they had, knowledge and resources. It was a rough time for them back then, for a lot of our parents. And it's not always a financial thing. Like, how were they treated emotionally? A lot of people went through, they got trauma with their parents just like you may have with yours. That's where that compassionate understanding come into, but it's really difficult because you have to take yourself out of the situation and just see them for who they are. And that's what everybody who done you wrong. Understand that person has a story and that person may be hurt too, and that takes a lot. That takes a lot to do. That takes a lot of work to do. But that's why that self-love is so important, because a lot of us are hard on ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. So of course it's going to be easy to be pissed off at somebody else. You know? And some of us have been wronged in the past, but you don't want to walk around with that type of that energy on you. Yeah, I know people had horrible things happen to them as a child, but you don't want that to be a part of your identity. You have to find a way to release that stuff, because that's what holding you back from being you. Who were you before the world did what it did to you? Who were you? Who was that little boy, that little girl that was happy in life, Some of us, don't have a lot of memories of that, but there was a point. Who were you before you were influenced by the world and your peers and your family? We were all innocent children at one point. We have to get back to that. That's where the creativity lies. That's where the truth lies. You know? That's where the real you is. But you have to be willing to go to those unfamiliar places, and that's what stops people. That's what stops people. You got to sit down and relive those memories. You have to sit down and remember and relive and release. It's hard for people to go there. But it's necessary. The hardest person you ever have to overcome in life is yourself. You got to. On the other side of that is everything you want in life. All the happiness, the joy. You go through that's when you find you. That's when you start to become free. You got to start asking yourself those questions and be honest with yourself. That's where real courage comes from. Overcoming yourself. It ain't about nobody else. But you got to get real. Everybody real until it's time to be real with themselves. You could be the hardest dude in the street, but you can't overcome yourself. You afraid to go back. You afraid to go. You afraid to relive that. You afraid to release, so you hold it all inside. And it shaped you. It's molded you. You are not the real you. You are the traumatized you. But it's time to change. You gotta let that go. For real. It don't matter what you've been through in life. It don't matter how many times you hit rock bottom. If you got back up, you here for a reason. The universe makes no mistakes, but the universe will keep putting you through the same test over and over and over and over again until you make the right decision. It's gonna happen. It's that cycle. Those generational curses, we gotta break them. But to do that, you gotta get real with you. Stop being a victim. What part did you play in the situation? What did you say to that person or about that person? You ain't always the victim. It's always so easy to blame the other person and point the finger. No, what did you do? You gotta get real with yourself. Until you do that, you're gonna keep chasing the wrong thing. Until you do that, you're just gonna keep accumulating more and more stuff and wondering why you ain't happy. Why you need so much to make you happy. Why you gotta be the center of attention all the time. Why you always got a problem with somebody. Why you can't have adult conversations. It all starts with you. Let the past be the past. That's why you gotta see it ain't always about the other person. You gotta be real with yourself. You gotta start loving on yourself more. You gotta have compassion for other people because you're not perfect either. You got trauma, you got a story, you got pain, and so do they. But it's so hard for us to be hard on other people because we hard on ourselves. We are our own worst enemy. You're your own worst enemy. The reason why you're not happy is because of you. You won't be honest with yourself. You in it for the thrill. You in it for those quick hits of dopamine, you know? You're never happy. That's why you get into escapism, you know? Everybody trying to escape, you know? What's your escape? We all got them. Gotta get real with yourself. You gotta stop beating yourself up. You know, the way we talk to ourselves, we would never let a stranger talk to us like that. Why are we so hard on ourselves? If somebody talked to us, had that same commentary to us how we have in our own minds, you'll be ready to fight somebody. You'll be out here talking about how everybody hates you and, you know, but we do it to ourselves. That's where that love gotta come in, that self-love. You gotta start to change your language. Stop talking bad about yourself. Stop calling yourself broke. Stop saying stuff like expensive. You have to change your language because there's power in the tongue. You have to start speaking. People speak curses over their life all the time. I'm this, I'm that, I don't got this, I don't got that. We got to stop talking to ourselves like that, you know? You got to speak positivity in yourself. If somebody talk the way you talk the way to yourself, the way you talk to, if somebody talk to you, the way you talk to yourself, you be ready to throw hands. You gotta change our language. You gotta get that mindset together. You gotta love yourself more. You gotta have compassion, forgiveness. Forgive yourself. Let's start there. We have to learn to forgive ourselves. Get into some love, get into some forgiveness. So what have you messed up in the past? So what have you made mistakes? Okay, you ain't down now. Like my girl Imani said, as long as you got breath in your body, you got options. You got another day to make it right. Forgive yourself, and then you can forgive others. But that comes with compassion. That comes with love and understanding. You see, the three really go. Well, I feel like once you understand that, once you love, that self-love, you can't love nobody else until you start to love yourself. Some people, you know, some people don't even understand the concept of love, you know. You know, what is love for, you know, love to some people is getting punched in the face, you know. And that's the truth. And that's terrible. It's terrible. You know. I feel like once I understand those three concepts, love, compassion, forgiveness, once I really understood those and really started practicing those, like, you really see people, you know, even the people who done you wrong, you see them, you don't really see them as an enemy, you know, because like I said, everybody got a story, you know. You start to see the world from a different lens, because hurt people, you know. You just start to see things so different, and you just don't, the thing is, you don't take things personal anymore, you know. Because no happy person is going to do horrible things to people, you know? And nobody who truly loves themselves is going to allow a horrible person to treat them wrong. So that's self-love, you know? That was number one for me. That I can see that's when it started. 'Cause you start talking to yourself different. You just start wanting more for yourself. It's just like that overall, I just want me to be good. I just want me to be happy. So I'm going to start eating different. You know, I'm going to start finding ways to, you know, to get my mind right. I'm going to start appreciating the world more. You know, coming out in here, this is therapy for me, you know. This fresh air, man. When I first moved here, I had no idea that this place was going to be like, you know, therapy for me. I love it here. I come out here every day. I go down by the marina and I sun gaze and I just look at the beautiful sunset. I love it here. You know, everything was aligning up before I even knew it. That love, you just once you love, I mean, once you just start loving yourself, you just understand who God is. You know, you understand who God is. When you just get to that place of, it's just alignment. When you really in that self-love, you are aligned with God. You're not going to eat anything. You're not going to put everything into your body. You're not going to put everything into your mind. You're going to be very mindful of the things you ingest. Everything. That's what I'm saying. That love, man. That's where it started for me. I had to get real with myself before anybody else, you know, that love. When I started to love myself more, I was able to, you know, to just grow to a different capacity, you know. Have just a certain appreciation for the simple things in life, you know. Look at this beautiful little garden. I love this. It don't always got to be a vacation, you know. This is love. I love it out here. You get into compassion, you know. You start getting to compassion. You understand that everybody is just a hurt little boy or girl. Everybody just trying to figure it out too, you know. Everybody got their trauma too. You don't take it personal anymore. That's what messes up. We start to take things personal. You get at that victim mindset. Start changing your perspective. Everything ain't about hurting you. Because hurt people. You know. Get into that compassion. Getting into that forgiveness. Stop beating yourself up for your mistakes of the past. You know. You got another day on this earth. You got another day to make things right. You got another day to chase your dreams and set some goals, you know. It don't always got to be nothing major. Stop being so hard on yourself. It's okay. Don't let your past define you. Don't let what he did to you continue to define you. Don't let what she did continue to define you. Don't wear that identity. Don't wear your trauma proudly on your sleeves. Let that go. You got to learn to let that go. Forgive yourself. Forgive him for not being who you needed him to be. Forgive her for not being who you needed her to be. Forgive your parents. Forgive your family. Stop holding grudges. Stop walking around with resentment. You got to get into forgiveness. That's the start. Start working. That's the work. When you start getting sick and tired, when you want change in your world, when you feel like you at that ending, no. That's a beautiful place to be. You have so much opportunity to grow. When you hit rock bottom, When you in that darkness, you got to embrace that darkness. But don't stay there. Go through it. Learn to love yourself more. Stop being so hard on yourself. Start getting to some forgiveness. Forgive yourself, and then you can forgive others. Love yourself, and then you can love others. Have compassion for yourself, and then you can have compassion for others. But it starts with self. We put too much emphasis on other people all the time. It starts with self. Sometimes you have to be selfish. It starts there. So I'm wrapping this up. It is hot out here. I ain't gonna hold you. It is hot out here, but I'll be back again with another video.